Hey, what's going on guys? Andy Brew here, and today I'm bringing you a Kingdom Hearts theory. And if you clicked on this video, you probably know where this is going. It's about the Master of Masters, and no, I do not think it's Demyx, but we will be discussing that shortly. And before we get started, there's spoilers for everything, so if you don't want spoilers, I don't know why you would click on this video in the first place, but that's just my 2 cents. Okay, anyway, let's just get into it. So I truly believe that the Master of Masters could really be anybody, and I'll get to why I think that in a little bit, but there are a couple of prime suspects that have the potential to be revealed as Mom. The first one is obviously Demyx. Now, I'm gonna make this clear again, I do not think Demyx is Mom. There's a lot of videos out there talking about how Demyx is the Master of Masters, so I'm not going to go into excruciating detail of why he could be Mom, because I don't want to waste your time giving you the same points and the same arguments that you've probably already heard before. And actually, I wanted to make a video saying that Demyx is not the Master of Masters because I don't think he is, but I didn't do that because there are some good points out there that support his case. For example, in Kingdom Hearts 2, Demyx is aware that even as a nobody, he has a heart. And at the time, it could have been seen as him being sarcastic towards Sora, but everyone else believed that nobodies didn't have hearts. So that was the case until Xemnas revealed in Dream Drop Distance that nobodies actually do have hearts, so it really does make you wonder if Demyx knew, and if he knows more than what he lets on. Another point is that at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3, Demyx is the only character that is nowhere to be found. He's the only character that's alive that doesn't appear in any of the scenes at the end of the game. It makes you wonder, what happened to him? And then just other lines that he drops about being under the radar and not judging by appearance, yada yada yada. But honestly, one of the biggest points that I'm seeing that this theory is riding on when it comes to Mom and Demyx being the same person is the argument that they have very similar personalities. And I want to let you guys know right now, this point is completely bogus and invalid. And I'm going to use the Luxu Xigbar reveal as my reasoning to point out why this is a weak argument. Kingdom Hearts 3 reminded us of this thing that can happen, which is body jumping. And I say reminded, no pun intended, because we've seen this before with Xehanort and Terra. And if you saw Kingdom Hearts 3's epilogue and read the secret reports, you know this is how Luxu is alive and well in the present day as Xigbar. The point I want to make is this. If you put Demyx and the Master of Masters side by side, they pretty much could be the same person because of their mannerisms. But if you put Luxu from back cover side by side with Xigbar, they have 2 very different personalities, and yet they ended up being the same person. Luxu in Kingdom Hearts Key back cover is a very different Luxu than in Kingdom Hearts 3. And because body jumping is a thing, this is why I believe anybody could be the Master of Masters. It could be Pete, you know, that's very unlikely, but hey, welcome to Kingdom Hearts. So I'm not saying that this completely shoots down that theory of Demyx being Mom, but I am saying that this specific point of the 2 having very similar personalities is not a very strong point to make. And also, if you take a look at his diary from Days, you know, it's just him being himself. He's not hiding anything, but if he is the Master of Masters, I don't think at that point he would have known that he was. I'm not totally against Demyx being the Master of Masters, but I just don't think he is, and honestly, I really don't want him to be because there's not really a lot of build up to him being someone as significant as Mom. At least with Xigbar, you can see throughout the entire series that he was definitely being built up to be someone far bigger than what we see on the surface. With Demyx, there's not really a ton of foreshadowing to him being someone significant other than a couple of subtle lines that make it a possibility. In the grand scheme of things, it wouldn't really make sense if Demyx was the Master of Masters, at least for me. I'm not totally against this theory because there is some evidence that supports it, but I don't totally support this theory either. My next suspect is a time-traveling version of Sora, which honestly is the theory that I'm leaning towards a little more, and I'll explain why in a second. I would honestly prefer Sora to be the Master of Masters over Demyx just because I feel like it would make the overall story so much more interesting and raise the stakes to an even higher level. There's not really much evidence at all when it comes to Sora and Mom being the same person, but here's a couple of things I found that might point to some kind of connection. The Master of Masters throughout all of back cover kept stating that one day he might disappear.
I might disappear one day. If one day I suddenly disappear, I might disappear.
Disappear?
Vanish? Dim? Fade? I don't know how to explain it. Maybe I'll never disappear. I don't know if I'm gonna disappear or not. It's anyone's guess right now.
So he keeps bringing up that he might disappear, not that he will disappear. So he doesn't know if he will or not. And what happens to Sora at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3? He disappears. That could just be a coincidence, but I am not so sure it is. Another thing is that the Master of Masters was the one to come up with that infamous phrase, "May your heart be your guiding key." He follows this motto because he believes you should do whatever your heart feels is right, as he states in his conversation with Envy. And that sounds very similar to Sora's character as a whole. Sora has always been one to follow his heart and only what his heart feels is right. And that is something that separates him from a lot of other characters. And finally, this last point is banking off of another theory, so take this with a grain of salt, but as people have brought up in the past, and as I have briefly stated in my previous theory video, the foretellers strangely resemble other characters that we know throughout the series, based off of their designs. And if you look at their designs close enough, the only one not here is Sora and Mom. But I will say a massive flaw in this theory would be the fact that Ventus is from the Union Cross era, and also the quote-unquote coincidence that the Gula and Sora character models are pretty much exactly the same, meaning Gula could be a version of Sora. And in my last theory video, I will admit I definitely overlooked the point that Ventus couldn't be Gula because they are from the same time period, so that's my bad. Thank you guys for pointing that out. However, I did make a case in my last video that Kairi could be a version of Ava. And again, take this with a grain of salt, but I'm bringing this up because if you watch the conversations that the Master of Masters had with each of the foretellers individually, he kind of jokes around with all of them, but the only one that he is completely serious around is Ava. He seems to be more caring around her, and he specifically gives Ava the role of not getting involved in any battles and raising up Keyblade wielders to survive the war. Maybe he gives Ava this role because he wants to keep Ava safe. And if Sora were to be the Master of Masters and Ava were to be a version of Kairi, this would make sense. But again, this whole point does piggyback off of another theory, so I'll be honest, it's definitely not the most valid point to make, but it is something interesting to think about. If Sora were the Master of Masters, it would be very ironic because he was never actually named a Keyblade Master even after saving the worlds on multiple occasions. And I honestly just think it would be super cool if this were to come true going into the next saga. I mean, think about it. Sora squaring off against the Master of Masters, who ends up being a version of himself. That would be nuts! Sora would literally be fighting himself. It would truly raise the stakes and turn out to be a battle of epic proportions. Another flaw in Sora and also Demyx's case lie in what is written in the secret reports. They state that Lucio is trying to bring back the Master of Masters. Why would he be trying to bring someone back that's already a character we know is alive and well in the present? So this makes me think if the Master of Masters does end up being a character we know, then Lucio is probably not aware of it. But if he is aware of Mom's identity, or at least if he's aware that Mom isn't someone he's ever encountered before, then that leads me to think that the Master of Masters could just be a brand new character that we've never seen before. And honestly, this is kind of what I'm hoping for the most. It would be great to introduce a brand new character that has zero connections to anyone we've met so far. I think it would bring a sort of freshness to the new saga, you know? Like, I don't think we need a shocking reveal. I just think it would be best if the Master of Masters really was just some random character that we've never met. And if that is the case, then that would make way for some opportunity to flesh out his character and dive into some new story instead of just a twist on everything we think we know. As stated earlier, I really think the Master of Masters could be anybody, because if you're a skilled enough Keyblade wielder, you can hop from vessel to vessel, as we have seen before. There's definitely evidence that alludes to Mom's identity, but we won't know for sure who it is until Nomura wants us to know. So there you go, guys. Who do you think is the Master of Masters? Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, go ahead and throw a like on it, and most importantly, subscribe for future content as well as to support the channel. I'm Andy Brew, and I will see you later.